Jeff Taylor. Jeff, thank you very much. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
This is episode 20 of 1F Jeff.
The number 20 represents awakening and higher awareness, the doubling of completion, and the beginning of a new cycle. In tarot, it's the Judgment card, a call to rise and transform after enlightenment. Numerologically, 20 combines the harmony of 2 with the infinite potential of 0, symbolizing intuition amplified by the void. Across cultures, it's linked with clarity, 2020 vision, contemplation, I Ching's hexagram 20, and triumph, the D20's critical success. It's the number of reflection, renewal, and the moment just before transcendence.
Hello, my friends. Yes, you heard right. 1F Jeff is about to transcend itself, or transcend the podcasting universe, if you will. What does that mean in the world of podcasts? I don't know. All I know is that I am proud to have gotten to 20 episodes of 1F Jeff. It's kind of fucking amazing, to be perfectly honest with you. 20 episodes, kaboom! Wanted to say something about Marc Maron, who just released his last episode just a few days ago here. I started listening to Marc Maron's podcast when he first started, like his very first month. It was September 2009. I was living in New York City, in East Harlem. I was working as an assistant editor at Howcast, which, if you don't remember, is that company that made the how-to videos before how-to videos became ubiquitous on the internet. I didn't particularly like the job, to be honest. It was pretty boring, but it was a day job, and my job before that was working overnights at MTV, which was cool until I started to slowly lose my mind because I was up all night and sleeping during the day. Fortuitously, or not, I got laid off after about 6 months at Howcast, and within a year, the rest of the internet had caught on to the how-to video trend, and the rest of the staff, I believe, or most of the rest of the staff got let go. Their Wikipedia page now says that they are, quote-unquote, dormant. Anyway, I would listen to Marc Maron at this job at my desk to avoid interacting with this woman who was ostensibly my boss and who sat next to me. She was very, how do I put this? Challenging to work with, let's say. Anyway, I listened to Marc Maron, so I didn't have to listen to her. And this was 2009, as I said, very, very early podcasting. So in order to listen, I had to download the podcast at home onto iTunes and then transfer it to my iPod mini, and then bring that iPod mini to work and listen to it with plugged in Apple EarPods with the volume thing on the cable there. You remember. It wasn't so much the interviews, but it was Marc in his monologues before the show that would sometimes go on for a half an hour that I really connected with. He would talk about his anxiety. He would talk about his stalled career. He would talk about his failed relationships. And it all felt very real and very vulnerable and candid in a way that I had never really experienced before. And I felt seen, and it made me feel better. I was also going through a horrible breakup at the time. So maybe that had something to do with it. So for years, I listened to every episode. I'd listen to it at work. I'd listen to it on the subway on the way home. I remember where I was when I listened to certain episodes. It's kind of crazy how that happens. And then after a while, podcasts started to kind of catch on. So I started to stray and listen to other people's podcasts, but I'd always kind of come back to Marc Maron now and again just to see how he was doing and who his guest was and so forth. And now I have my own podcast. And honestly, it owes a debt of gratitude to Marc Maron for getting the ball rolling, in a sense, on these podcast things, for showing what was possible in a podcast format, for exposing himself, flaws and all, and in doing so, making me and other people feel a little less alone. So if you ever hear this, when you hear this, thank you, Marc Maron. You'll be missed, and I will gladly fill the void that you have left in the confessional style podcast world that you helped create. Anyway, today's guest is Jeff Taylor. Not me, Jeff Taylor. I'm always on this podcast. Another Jeff Taylor, also with just one F.
Jeff Taylor is a Boston area naturalist, educator, and enthusiast for the small wonders of life: insects, fungi, urban ecology, wildlife in unexpected corners. He's known to lead nature walks, apply science in practical fields like humane pest management, and engage people via community-driven side projects, blending curiosity, play, and ecological awareness.
About 10 or 15 years ago, a guy named Jeff Taylor friended me on Facebook. We messaged back and forth once or twice. Nice name, ha ha ha, that kind of thing. And then a couple of weeks ago, I made a Facebook page for this podcast, which you should all go and join, by the way, facebook.com/1FJeffPod. And I invited probably all of my Facebook friends, like you do. And Jeff Taylor, the other Jeff Taylor, he followed it right away. And he left a comment on one of my first posts that said, "It would feel weird not to listen to this podcast," which I thought was quite clever. So I asked him to come on the show, and he gladly agreed. And in thinking about having this conversation, I started thinking about what a name is, how much we identify with these two words that are so much of us, and how strange it is that there's somebody else out there who has the exact same name as me and experiences the world with the same two words identifying him. And also, in this case, another person who wisely chose to remove the superfluous F from Jeff, which is a smart move, because the amount of time you save from not having to write that extra F every single time you write your name, it adds up, my friends. It adds up. And it's strange, to hear your name, your full name, out of somebody else's mouth, but it's their name too. Like, what does a name hold beyond being just like a placeholder? I mean, it's a placeholder for like an entire narrative in a way. And it's strange that when people who know that Jeff Taylor hear the words Jeff Taylor, they have an entirely different reaction and like thought process than when people who know me hear Jeff Taylor. It would be super confusing if we knew the same people. This episode brought me a lot of joy, and it feels weirdly perfect for the modestly monumental 20th episode of 1F Jeff. Patreon subscribers, new and old, I love and appreciate you. Of course, I love and appreciate all of my listeners. As I've said repeatedly, but I save just a little bit more for those Patreon subscribers. I'm going to record another bonus episode later this week. So if this episode isn't quite enough Jeff Taylor, there will be more coming. And if you aren't a Patreon subscriber, and if you want to hear more Jeff Taylor, or if you want to just help support the podcast, just go to patreon.com/1FJeff and sign up. For as little as $5 a month, you can help support this fledgling podcast and also hear me get on my soapbox and ramble from time to time. Yell at the clouds, so on and so forth. Patreon.com/1FJeff. And now it's time to enter the Jeff Taylor multiverse. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Here's Jeff Taylor and Jeff Taylor. Jeff Taylor, it's good to meet you. I'm also Jeff Taylor. Thanks for coming on the 1F Jeff podcast.
It's great to finally talk to you.
You've been on my radar. I think we've been Facebook friends for quite a few years now, but we've never actually communicated. You were the urban pantheist, right?
I was the urban pantheist back in the time that I reached out to every other 1F Jeff Taylor to see who we were.
And you were the one who reached out to me. I don't remember who actually started our Facebook friendship, but it must have been you in this case.
I think so. I think it was a wild hair I got where back in the early days of the internet, it was a fun thing to do to search your own name. And then I thought, well, who else has got this name? And there was you and another guy who had, all I know about him is he was a black fella and is a football fan, and I haven't
who
kept
that is,
in
yep.
contact with him. You know who he is? Yeah.
Yeah, I know of him. There's another guy who's a painter as well who has the URL jefftaylor.com.
Yes.
Just one F.
Yeah, Color Fields, right?
I believe
Color
so.
field
I
paintings,
believe so. So tell me, how did you end up being a 1F Jeff? Were you a Jeffrey?
I am a Jeffrey with 2 Fs.
As am I.
And, the honest answer is that it was a sort of a pretentious affectation of my becoming a college student. I was like, I need to set myself apart.
Exactly the same, dude. Exactly the same. I was a pretentious English major, and I was like, I don't need both Fs. It's the same pronunciation.
Exactly.
And and it's worked out because people remember there's so many Jeffrey Taylors in the world. Like if you look in the phone book, I don't know how old you are, but remember phone books, there'd be like on and on and on Jeffrey Taylors. But 1F Jeff Taylors, there's only a handful. So you remember a 1F Jeff.
My brother, who is an artist who goes by F. Andrew Taylor, likes to say that he won my F off of me in a poker game. He uses that as his first initial now.
Yeah, I used to say I lost mine in the war. Yeah, stupid jokes. But in the end, it was like early internet when I took mine off, and it's worked out really well for like internet algorithms because like JEFF Taylors, there's so many of them, but JEF Taylor, then you search for that, I get good results.
It's tremendous. There's I don't know if you know the app iNaturalist, but I use it every day to document, biological observations. And my screen name there, it's the first time I've gotten the screen name I wanted, and it is just Jeff with 1F. It's JEF.
Oh, nice. I've always just gone with 1F Jeff because I felt like that was my brand. Yeah. Anyway, tell me about the other 1F Jeff. Tell me what the other 1F Jeff does. I have no idea. Aside from
what I do?
Urban stuff. Yeah, what do you do?
Yeah. So I have been working for the major city zoo in my area for 18 years. I am a pest control technician there.
Wow.
I prefer to lean into what I do when I'm not there, which is lead nature walks, which is more fun, but I have devoted, most of my adult life to the zoo field. For a while, I was the president of our local chapter of the American Association of Zookeepers. I was very proud of that at the time.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. What part of the country are you in?
I'm in the Boston area.
Oh, right on. I'm in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were in New
Not
York
very
for a
exciting.
while.
I was in New York for about 10 years, and I moved here about 7 years ago or so. And now I'm kind of hoping to leave here, but that's another story. So the naturalist, the nature walks, you've been doing that for a long time, or is that a new thing?
Been doing it for a long time. The first official walk, the first one that I documented was November 2003.
Oh, wow.
And so we had a 20th anniversary walk in November 2 years ago. It's become more, the schedule has become much more regular over time. So now I do it every month, the last Sunday of every month. And the interest in doing it has become, the interest in participating has grown so much since the pandemic that I've basically doubled up where I'm doing, I'm averaging 2 a month.
Oh, nice. And what do you focus on for in the walks?
Each event is different. In some of the walks, we're just exploring the area, like, oh, they opened a new park here, let's see what that's like. Or sometimes I will hire a guest expert, a marine biologist or a entomologist or something like that, and we'll focus on what their field of study is. And sometimes we do history walks, like we did the site of the molasses flood disaster back in January. We did the molasses flood.
I know it very well. I'm fascinated by the Great Molasses Disaster. I think they should make it into a movie. I've been thinking this for years. Why is there not a movie?
Should.
I mean, can you imagine like the thing that fascinates me, and there's a book too that's about it. It's quite
Dark
good.
Tide.
Yeah, Dark Tide. Dark Tide is the name of the. It's got to be the name of the movie, right? It's got to be.
It's got to be, and
it
honestly,
writes itself.
they really don't need to change much from that book to a screenplay.
No, it's such a great. But I mean, the effects would have to be. They could do it, but like the idea of drowning and molasses is so horrific to me. Like, I can't even imagine how bad that would be. You'd be sticky, which I don't really like being like syrup and everything. I don't like having sticky stuff on my fingers, right? So, like, to me, that seems like the most horrible way to die, which I think would enhance the movie, frankly, because it would bring some terror to it, because it would be a very slow, the slowest moving. I can already see the trailer,
Oh yeah.
It was the slowest moving wave. How tall was that wave of molasses? Like 10 or 20 feet tall, I think?
Yeah, it was like 2 stories tall, yeah.
Right. It was a massive, yeah. Yeah, great. Love that. It's strange that you're like the only other person I think I've ever talked to who's known of the molasses disaster. And I wonder if it's because we have the same name. What element of nature, what brought you to doing the nature walks? Was there something in particular about nature, like mushrooms or birds or, whatever? Or is it just the general?
So all my life, I've been the kind of little boy who plays in tide pools or flips over logs to look for salamanders and centipedes and stuff. So that's my wheelhouse, is little things that I can hold up close and look at.
Cool.
And at that time, I was working for the Audubon Society as a wildlife caretaker, taking care of hawks and owls, education animals that couldn't be released.
Oh, very cool.
And so I knew a lot of birders, and I knew some entomologists and stuff. And the first walk was a bit of a fiasco because everybody was interested in something else, and so trying to keep everybody together was completely impossible. The birders stopped and were looking at one bird for 20 minutes trying to figure out if it was a Swainson's thrush or a hermit thrush.
Of course.
And so having it be a little more focused has turned out to work a lot better.
And what's it like to work in the zoo? You've worked in zoos for a long time. What's that like? I've never even imagined working in a zoo.
The thing that you imagine is very true, which is you feel honored to be around these animals all the time.
Sure.
And I've been, a working guy for so long that I have to remind myself of that sometimes, where I'm just like wandering around angry that I have to work in order to maintain health insurance. Then I have to like slap myself up the side of the head and say, like, you tried to get this very hard. I was working in a warehouse. I was an art school dropout when I started working with animals, and I decided like this was going to be the way. And so I have to remind myself that I'm where I am because I tried to get there, and that I can't let bad days get me down.
Yeah. Well, I went to art school and I didn't drop out, and I have a shitload of student loan debt. So, one version of Jeff Taylor and the other version of Jeff Taylor. How do you feel about like the ethics of zoos? Where do you stand on that kind of thing? Like, do you feel like I find zoos kind of like, it depends on the zoo, of course, like San Diego, which I haven't been to, apparently is like, the best in terms of like the habitats and all that. But I've gone like the Cleveland Zoo I've been to, and it's just, it makes me somewhat sad because the animals don't necessarily often, I mean, it's getting better, I think, but I still feel like the animals don't necessarily often seem thrilled about their existence.
I think any adult going to a zoo is going to be sad after a while, because as great as
pitch.
Yeah, I know, right? No, as great as the care is that these animals are getting, the thing that you want to see about animals, you want to see an eagle soar, you want to see, hoofed animals running in packs, and in order to actually take care of these kind of animals, they have to be in, you have to be able to reliably get your hands on them, have the veterinary team get their hands on them and stuff, and so they're never going to, unless you have something like the big elephant sanctuaries where the elephants wander around and they're smart enough to go where you want them to. I think I fully understand why people feel that way about zoos, because it is just sad to see animals unable to freely do what they do. But on the other hand, it's a kind of science museum where you get to see animal behavior that you would not be able to. The thing I like to say to people is, how would you ever believe that a giant anteater was a real thing in this day and age unless you could actually go and look at it?
Right.
Like it looks made up. It does not look
Right.
like a real thing, and so like being in its presence is pretty awe-inspiring. And so
I mean, don't get me started about the platypus. That's the whole other one.
exactly.
Right.
So yeah, having that kind of access. The whole point of the zoos now is that they're supposed to inspire conservation ethos. And that's a tricky tightrope to walk, because the people that lean that way are going to feel bad about seeing animals in captivity. But the kids who don't necessarily have all of those preconceptions yet, they can be inspired. They can be, super excited to see a zebra or gorilla or whatever it is that is the thing that connects with them. And so those are the kind of connections zoos are making.
Right.
And then,
it's
of
a double-edged
course,
sword in a way, yeah.
yeah. And the other thing that I think about a lot is we didn't invent zoos today to be conservation organizations. We inherited zoos from the late 19th century, early 20th century, and they existed for a different reason then. The thought was great American cities should have a place where humans can go look at animals. And it's not the right ethos anymore, but the zoos have been operating for a little over a century. And so you have to keep the institution going, but you have to change the goal of the institution is different, and that transformation, everything at a zoo takes forever because they're huge organizations with tons of bureaucracy. So that transformation has taken almost a whole century. But I think we're at that place. Somebody said if zoos didn't exist, we would have to invent them, because there will be a need at some point for these. A lot of the animals we have are critically endangered.
Right. So we got to.
Will there be gorillas 20 years from now? We have
right.
insurance populations of these very endangered animals. But we also have things like prairie dogs that aren't endangered, that people just want to look at them because they're cute.
Right. They're very cute. I was just out in South Dakota and saw a bunch of them. They're very cute.
Yeah. So that's good to hear. I just posted the match number 6 in season 8 and didn't get the engagement that I wanted. These are inspired. Another artist and actor named Aaron Yonda created Junkyard Joust during the pandemic, and I was just inspired by it. I thought this is great fun, and started doing my own fan version of it.
For people who don't know what it is, tell people like what exactly this exactly is.
So it's a game where you send Hot Wheels cars down a track and they smash into one another. There are teams, and at the end of the round, each car that is still upright continues on to the next round, but the ones that are sideways or upside down do not. And so you gradually eliminate cars until you have your winners.
So I just stumbled upon these, and I was like, wow, it was one of the strangest things I've ever seen. I have never heard of this before, and I was just like, it was kind of mesmerizing just watching these cars slowly slam into each other. There was something truly, and your commitment to it was the other impressive part, because you were very committed to it. There was a lot of them out there. You were putting them out like, I think, one every day or one every other day for a while or something, but it was impressive.
Thank you. Yeah. So mine is called Backyard Joust, and yeah, if I didn't have a full-time job and an all-consuming hobby, this other hobby, I would be able to do a video a day. But as it is, I'm lucky to get out 3 in a week or 3 every 2 weeks right now.
Right.
It should be my winter hobby, since I'm not doing as much during the summer and fall. I'm hired by the Audubon Society to do mushroom walks, and so I do a lot of mushroom walks,
nice.
and that's taken up a ton of my time, which is also great. I love it.
That's awesome. Mushrooms are fascinating. Yeah. What were you going to go to art school for?
I initially was going to be a sculptor. I
Okay.
come from a small farm town in northern Connecticut, and got to Boston. My eyes widened by the big city, and for a hot minute, I thought it was going to be a filmmaking major, and
That's what I would
I got to see things like glass blowing and all of these wonderful things. I was a photography major for a year and settled into a thing called Studio for Interrelated Media,
Okay.
which was a kind of self-guided. It's where at the time, because technology was, this is 1987,
Yeah.
the technology at the time, so any computer artists or video artists or anybody that didn't quite fit into anything as technologically advanced as so there was film, but there was no video. And so
Sure.
people who wanted to do video art went to sim, but also performance art, lots of performance art and event planning and stuff like that. And I ended up publishing the school comic book and doing that for a bunch of years. And I did some performance art and some fiction writing and then reading those aloud.
It's interesting to me that Jeff Taylor's seem to be like the one F Jeff. I think it's the pretense of taking the other F off that we seem to be drawn to the arts. Like, I just think it's interesting. So what, because one of my questions going into this was like, is there a connection between us in some bizarre way, aside from the label that we have for ourselves, right? That we've chosen in a way. And I don't know about, yeah, I think there is. And there's another Jeff Taylor out there who's an artist as well. So it's an interesting thing. I don't know that the Jeff Taylor who's into basketball or whatever it is necessarily connected to us in that way. But who knows? Maybe I should talk to him. Maybe I should make a whole other 1F Jeff podcast, which is just interviews with 1F Jeff Taylors or something like that. Maybe I should just do a spin-off podcast that is just interviewing all the 1F Jeffs in the world.
I love it.
But it's interesting, though, like, because your name is such an intimate part of who you are as a human being. And to know that, like, we have aside from our middle name, I don't use my middle name very often, but exact same name. Like, do you have any issues with the 1F Jeff? Like going to Starbucks or whatever, and you're like Jeff, and you're not bothering to tell them it's 1F because nobody's going to know. You just accept that they're going to do 2Fs.
Yeah. What's fascinating to me is getting emails. And
oh yeah,
and I sign my emails. I'm an old dude, so I write my email and then write Jeff with 1F.
Sure.
And it's a real litmus test on the other person as to whether they catch up and spell my name correctly.
Yep.
And there are people that I've worked with for almost 20 years that just haven't caught it. It's amazing to me.
And you can't be like, excuse me, but I spell my name with 1F. You don't want to be that guy.
Right. Don't want to double down on the pretension.
Right. It took my mom a while to do the 1F thing. She didn't quite like it at first, but then after a while, I don't remember when it was, I saw her write my name and she wrote JEF, and I was like, oh, she's accepted it. She's accepted me,
That's funny. I remember my dad accepting it too. Yeah, and that was like, oh, that's good.
Right. At first it was like, what the hell are you doing? What is this?
Right.
Right. Do you ever make the joke about how you pronounce your name a little differently? Like just you clip the F at the end? It's not Jeff. It's just Jeff. You ever know? No.
I
just
haven't.
Me.
I've heard other people say Jeff at me.
How do you feel about how do you feel about Joffrey's, the GEOFF clan?
Apparently that was almost how my name was spelled.
Oh, you dodged the bullet there, bro. You dodged the bullet.
Absolutely, yeah. There's some story that I don't quite remember with my mom on drugs and my dad in the room, and they're having to talk about how this kid's name is going to be spelled. And yeah, I squeaked through with the Jeff, the J spelling. I've only met one G Jeff, and I thought that was really
only
strange.
One. Do you think that it was because of the drugs, or in spite of the drugs, that they went with the Jeffrey with the J?
Yeah, I'm not sure on that aspect of the story.
That's interesting.
But either way, I do like that drugs were involved. I think that makes it.
Do you know what kind of drugs were involved?
Whatever they gave mothers for childbirth in 1969.
Oh, I see. They weren't like doing Quaaludes or something. All right, I'm imagining they're on Quaaludes.
Acid in the hospital. Yeah,
right. All right, the picture's a little clearer now. Fair enough.
Yeah.
How old are you, Jeff? If you don't mind me asking, I'm 51.
I'm 56. Yeah, I was born in 69.
Wow, I think most of the 1F Jeffs are going to be about our same, because Jeffrey was the most popular name around like that, like 68 to 73 or so was about the pocket of Jeffrey being a very popular name, but it's not really a popular name anymore.
Did you go through having lots of other Jeffs in your classes and school,
For sure,
and
yeah.
having to figure out ways to differentiate them?
Yeah, I mean, I was the theater kid, so it wasn't very hard. Like, I was the nerdy theater kid in high school, and I still had 2Fs then, so it was a different time for me.
Yeah.
But yeah. Do you have any brothers or sisters?
I have my one older brother, the F. Andrew Taylor. Who took
Right. You mentioned, yeah. Oh, but no sisters. That would be weird if you had a sister with the same name as mine. That'd be scary. That'd be scary. Yeah. The metaverse would get even more bizarre, you know? I wonder if there's a world in which we could actually have like a convention of Jeff Taylors. I wonder how many we could find, because I looked on Facebook and there's quite a few. And I wonder how hard it would be to get a convention and like you could film it. It'd be the most interesting, like the weirdest. It would be like on This American Life or something, you know, the convention of Jeff Taylors, 1F Jeff Taylors.
It sounds fabulous. You'd have to figure out where the sort of the density was and plan.
Right.
Where's
the density? I would imagine it's an East Coast thing more than a West Coast thing.
Seems
but
likely,
I could be totally wrong about that. But yeah, because I think I'm friends with maybe 2 others on Facebook. And honestly, I was so happy when you like followed the podcast page, and then you I don't know what you commented on the podcast or something, or should be my favorite podcast, or I forget what the comment was. And then I was like, you should come on. And immediately you were like, yeah, I'll come on. Absolutely. Then I thought about it and I was like, that's the funniest thing I could possibly do for this podcast. Have you ever gotten any emails meant for me?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. We do have a pretty similar Gmail address, I think.
Oh, we do?
Every once in a while, I'll see your name somewhere that'll pop up and I'm like, wait, that's not me.
Yeah, mine's just Jeff Taylor at Gmail.
Yeah, mine uses my middle initial. C.
The old middle initial C. Yeah, yeah.
And I think I may have added that in because of you. I think I may have said, "Well, I'm gonna have to be Jeff C. Taylor from now
right,
on."
Right, because I was first. Yeah,
I
was first. Yeah, honestly, like I've had people offer me, because I got 1fjeff.com, the website, and I got it on all of the social medias. Except for 1 or 2, but yeah, I try to get it right away, because I've had somebody try to buy 1fjeff.com from me for like $3,000 at one point, and I was like, yeah, no, it's
not your price,
property. Right? No, I need more than that. I would need like 30. I would sell it for, I think, maybe. Yeah.
Can I tell you? I attempted a podcast. I made 12 episodes of a podcast called Species of Least Concern, where I was trying to basically make a podcast version of the Urban Pantheist zine, where I talk about
cool.
Weird animals and how nature interacts with humans and that kind of stuff. And I would introduce myself as 1F Jeff, because I was nervous about using my last name on it. But
sure.
This is distinctive enough, and so I actually referred to myself as 1F Jeff on those 12 episodes.
Yeah, that's about as far as most podcasts get. To about 8 or 12 is like, I think 90% of all the podcasts like peter out at that many episodes. But yeah, I've only been able to continue to do this because I'm unemployed at the moment. So yeah, I think this will be 20. I think this will be the 20th episode.
Excellent.
The 20th episode spectacular with Jeff interviews Jeff.
Yeah, it's a good milestone.
How did you get involved in mushrooms? I'm always interested in mushrooms. I've seen the Paul Stamets documentary, and have taken them. So yeah.
When I was working at the Audubon Society, I was surrounded by all of these teacher naturalists. I was taking care of the animals. They would come and they take the animals and do programs with them. But there were all kinds of programs that they would do, including lichens and fungi and stuff. And there was nobody at my nature center that was great with mushrooms, but I sort of made myself into that person and started training the other teacher naturalists on mushrooms. I just jumped into them. Like the thing that I tell everybody is they're just as fascinating as insects, but they don't,
for sure,
they hold still for photos. And yeah, I've never looked back. It's been a really wonderful thing that I feel like I hit some new height this year with the total number of mushroom walks that I was hired for. I have a couple of private clients that hire me every year, but most of my stuff is done through the Audubon Society. And,
Well, I feel like mushrooms are blowing up too. Like they've become much more popular in the last 5 to 10 years.
There's some kind of cultural zeitgeist that I got hit, and it coincided a little bit with the Stamets movie you were talking about, and
For sure, yeah.
and the pandemic. Anything where you can spend time somewhat socially and outdoors, that really helped blow things up.
Yeah, I think the psychedelic mushrooms as well was part of it as well. The more people trying those and more people
For
talking
sure.
about those and books being written about those. Yeah, I think it's a confluence. But yeah, I have a good friend who just has like a whole Instagram account that's just taking pictures of weird mushrooms that she finds in the woods. So
I wonder if I know them. The mushroom community is pretty interconnected, entangled.
hers is called like intergalactic mushrooms or something like that.
All right, I'm writing
I
it down.
forget the whole name. What brings you joy, Jeff Taylor?
What brings me joy? Increasingly, it is getting outside with a group of people and leading them. Usually, like I said, this year it's been a lot of mushroom walks. But anytime that I'm doing my event series, my nature walk series, that's been super important. It's been honestly hard to find joy, just kind of like banging your head against the onslaught of terrible news and the tidal wave of fascism across the country. And
Put your phone down, Jeff. Put your phone down.
yeah, exactly.
Stop
So if I
paying
can get
attention.
out
Stop paying
there-
attention. Yeah.
Yep. So if I can get out there, I guess what the kids say is touch grass.
Yep.
And so for those 2 hours, that's the only thing I know about is we're all here together, and I'm showing you what I think is cool about usually something that nobody thinks about, like slime molds or little tiny cup fungi or salamanders or whatever it happens to be, wasps.
I love that. It's like almost a Zen space that you can be in, where that's the only thing that is at that time. You know what I mean? Like the outside world stops existing in a way, and you're just locked into the moment of teaching these people about random nature.
Right.
facts
It's
and
very
stuff.
similar to when I was doing more, visual art. That when you lock into it, I'm sure the same
Right.
thing happens to you, and you forget to eat, and 8 hours goes by, and you're like enthralled with what you're doing, and you look up and you're like, oh, it's dark out. What's going on?
Yeah, that's the
Is
goal,
that-
right?
Right. To get into that
Yeah.
headspace. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I find that it's harder to get into the older that I get, or maybe it's just I think the phones have a lot to do with it. I think that it was much
Yeah.
easier to do before all this distraction, and I'm really struggling with it lately because I feel like my attention span has really, I've noticed, has plummeted precipitously in the last 5 to 10 years, and I don't quite care for it. But I don't know. It's hard because these devices are so addictive, and
Yeah,
the screens are so pretty and colorful, and they're meant to be. But then you also think about the fact that the people who invented these devices don't let their kids use them. So it's like,
Yeah.
but really, this is, I think, the cause of when we talk about how bad things are getting. I mean, I think the finger can be pointed squarely at technology and the algorithms that are dividing us even further, dividing us further and further apart. I've gone on this soapbox too many times on this podcast, so I need to shut the fuck up. But
No,
but you know what I mean.
I absolutely do, and I think the problem really is the motivations behind the technology are not like, how can we make a better world? How can we, remember the beginning of the internet? Everybody talked about all of the information of the world will be at your
Yep.
fingertips, and that's kind of true. I use Wikipedia. I pay for Wikipedia. I donate to Wikipedia. I use iNaturalist. I donate to iNaturalist. So there are these information sources out there, and I'm constantly on my phone. But the amount of time I spend just looking at garbage that is designed to keep my eyeballs on it and keep me angry and interacting with it is
Yeah, it's the endless scroll. And
indefensible. Yeah.
Yeah, and the reality of it is also that, like, they're monetizing anger and anxiety, and that's really problematic because that's what people want to click on, is things that make them angry and anxious for some reason.
Yeah.
It's like a weird human nature thing that really troubles me. But yeah, I was in politics for 4.5 years, so I think I'm fairly numb to it all at this point.
In what way were you in politics?
I was working at, it was, the Lincoln Project. It was an anti-Trump organization. It was all
Okay.
it was a super PAC run by former Republicans who were trying to get rid of, Trump. We started in 2020. I got hired in the middle of 2020.
Similar to the Midas.
Yeah, well, Midas Touch took Lincoln Project's basically MO and just did the same thing. Yeah,
Gotcha.
and they're actually doing it better than Lincoln Project is now, between you and me. But
It's pretty savvy.
anyway, yeah, it really is. But yeah, I got laid off from there in January, which is generally really a good thing because it's toxic. But yeah, I made videos like wacky recuts of Donald Trump stuff. Like I would do like funny, weird, wacky videos making fun of the Republican Party. But now looking back, I feel like I was more like, at the time, I think in 2020 it was really fun. But then as this election came forward and after he won again, I was like, oh, maybe I was part of the problem here.
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, honestly, you think about it, and I was like, the narratives we're putting out were these narratives of like these Trump supporters are stupid idiots, blah, 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 blah. And I don't think that's a healthy narrative to be putting out. I don't think that's the right angle at all. I don't think that's helping anybody by
Sure.
putting people down and saying that people are racist and stupid. But I don't work there anymore, so I don't have to worry about it.
It's not practical either because it backs those people into a corner and all, and that they just cling to the unhealthy things that they're already on.
Yeah, no, it's a profoundly bizarre time. I'm thinking about moving to Mexico or Guatemala or something because I can't with this America anymore. It's like what's keeping me here anymore? America used to be this place where it was like, oh, there's so many great things, but like now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I'm paying so much for health insurance, I'm paying so much for everything. Like, what am I doing here? Aside from friends and family, what's keeping me?
I feel like my wife and I are on this tightrope where if things get better, then we'll fall over into, retirement in America in 10 years, and we'll be happy probably living in Southern California, someplace where we don't hate the weather.
Sure.
But if things continue going the way we're going, she happens to be a Canadian citizen.
Oh, well done.
So falling over onto that side is, where I hate the weather, but they just in Canada just now made school lunches, universal school lunches, permanent.
Right, they're doing a lot of things that we should be doing here. I mean, healthcare.
Yeah.
Healthcare and all the things. But yeah, I'd be there already if I were you, to be honest. But like, I get it. The weather is tricky. But Canada's also a beautiful country. Like I was up there a couple of years ago, and like in Calgary and Banff, and boy, it's something to be said for the Canadian Rockies. Almost better than the American Rockies, to be honest.
That's the one part I haven't been to. Yeah.
Oh, I recommend it. How do you imagine that this would ever return to normal, though? That's the thing that I always ask myself. Is it like, I think it feels too far gone to me at this point, but maybe I'm just too cynical, but I generally am not. I've been not cynical enough in this instance this year because I didn't think it was going to get this crazy.
I don't think going back to normal is possible. I am hopeful in my better days that we won't have Republicans in all three branches of government, and that eventually the old man is going to die and there's nobody, like Stephen Miller doesn't have any charisma and J.D. Vance doesn't have any charisma. And so they're going to have to hope that they've gamed the system enough that they will hold on to the levers of power without their charismatic TV star strongman.
Yeah.
And I can see that falling apart. I don't know that we have enough people on the other side prepared to pick up the pieces and fight as dirty for good as they have been fighting dirty for evil on the other side. That's what I worry about. Can we get more Bernies, more AOCs, more Adam Schiffs, more Jasmine Crockett's, these people that really are saying the right things? Can we get them into power, and will they will they undo this tremendous amount of damage that's happened?
I mean, I think that the only one of those people that you mentioned that I'd actually be okay with being in office would be Bernie Sanders, because he's the only legitimate one. Like, I think that the system is so captured, and I think that Donald Trump is a very effective distraction, but I think that it's far more nefarious than that. And I think that, frankly, both sides, like the Democrats being ineffective right now, that's not an accident. This is like the entire system has been so captured by corporate money that when a person like Donald Trump comes in, it's distracting from all of the other things. And the other things are our government is being legally bribed every single day by corporate money and has not been a democracy for years. Like the problems run deeper than Trump, which is the thing. And that's where I think we really, I don't really want to get too deep into it, but like, I think we really blew it with Bernie Sanders in 2016. I think he would have won. I think he would have beat Trump, and I think things would be totally different right now. But that's, maybe just me wishing for a different past, of course. But yeah, I think they really blew it. But yeah, here's hoping. I mean, it's certainly an interesting time to be alive. Isn't that like the Chinese curse? May you live in interesting times. Or something like that?
May you live in interesting times. Yeah, and I feel at times too naive and too cynical, and don't know exactly where to come down on it. But I basically agree with everything you said, while keeping in the back of my head the hope that the things will get better. Like, I have to have that hope. I have to keep trying to inspire joy in the people close to me, so that there's something still there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in my mind, the best thing that individuals can do at this point, instead of going on Instagram and posting your, whatever anti-Trump, blah blah blah, whatever it is, these to put in, I think you need to like go into the community around you and volunteer and help people in your community, help out where you can, make the place around you better, because that's all that you can do to really enact, and that actually does enact positive change. That's truly helping in a way, more than calling your congressperson, more than all these other things that I feel like are just really distractions.
Yeah. For the people who have gone, who are really paranoid and they think like, I need to have guns, which I don't entirely disagree with, but I also think, knowing the names of all of your neighbors is going to be 100 times more effective than owning guns.
Absolutely.
If things go sour all around you, know your people around you, figure out who needs help and help them if that's what's going on.
I mean, I feel like that's part of the problem is we've really lost the sense of community here in the United States. I mean, maybe other places, but I think the United States in particular has really this idea of community. You don't know how many people I don't know a lot of my neighbors. A lot of my friends, most of my friends probably don't know a lot of their neighbors. I have one friend who knows all of his neighbors because he's that kind of person. But like, I just don't feel like there is the sense of togetherness in it because we're all on the phones and on the internet. So it's I don't know. But I really do think that finding community again is really important. And I love the idea of getting to know all your neighbors' names. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. The cult of individuality, which I certainly subscribe to as a person who deliberately changed their name in order to look more individual, has been not great for America.
No,
you look at the watch a Chinese dance routine or something, and like, oh, those people have a very different way of approaching the world than we do. They are willing to become their part of the group. They don't need to stand out. And with the phones, that allows us to be insulated. We can be a single person trapped inside a single black rectangle.
Yeah. And I think COVID did a lot to accelerate this. In a way that,
for sure.
Yeah. Good times. I mean, honestly, if you can find joy in your own life, then I think you're doing well because you're only it's not what's happening. It's how you yourself are reacting to what's happening that's important. And I think that if you can find a way to say to yourself, I'm not going to have negative reactions to these things. I'm going to accept these things or not pay attention to these things. Then I think that's the best thing that I think a lot of people can do because it's bad vibes in America right now. It's not good vibes. And I know that simplifies it, but I really would prefer to have some better vibes. That's just,
Yeah. and it's fun to seek out those good vibes, find people that in the face of all this are having a good time and figure out like, well, what are they doing? How are they feeling this? I had pretty serious depression. I guess it was leading into the pandemic, and actually toward the end of the pandemic up till now, when things continue to be objectively kind of terrible, I'm in remission from it, and I'm on medication, I'm in therapy, but
Same.
But it's paradoxical to me. Like shouldn't I feel the worst right now? But I guess I'm happy that I'm not, so that I can think clearly and not just, spend all day in bed looking at my phone. I can
Sure.
get out in the world.
It's a vicious cycle, isn't it? Right.
Mm-hmm.
I've also suffered from the depression as well. Another thing we have in common. I wonder if it's the name JEF that does it, or if we should do a scientific study of some sort. I'm not sure what it would be, but I think scientists could study, right, the 1Fs. That's a movie name right there. We should start a band and call it the Jeff Taylors.
They would think it's like the Ramones, but no, this is really our names.
No, it's really the Jeff Taylors. I wonder if we could get one more person. Do you play any instruments?
I don't. I could probably fake being a percussionist slash
like tambourine or something. Yeah.
Lead vocalist.
Yeah. Perfect. You're in. Yeah.
Or backing vocals.
We need you. Yeah, we really need you because you're the only other Jeff Taylor that I know right now. So we need you in the band. We can't be the Jeff Taylors without at least we need at least two Jeff Taylors to call ourselves the Jeff Taylors.
Yeah, we need a third. I saw a 2-piece the other day, and I was like, this is cool what they're doing, but I've seen 2 opening bands that were 2 pieces recently, and I thought, this is great, but like, name the super successful, famous 2-piece band, because you really are missing out on a chunk. Like for a rock band, like you can be a duo, you can be Simon and Garfunkel, but like one guy playing drums and one person playing
the Black Keys, the
there
White Stripes.
Yep,
those are 2 big ones.
That's true. Those are good.
I saw the Tune Yards. I don't know if you remember them, but that's a 2-piece as well. And she does a lot of looping and stuff. But it actually reminded me when you were talking about like finding pieces of joy in this dark time. It was actually like, it made me think that like, because at this concert, like it was a wonderful concert. It was a very like small venue, and like everybody was very much like into it and very happy to be there, and the performers seemed very happy to be there, and it was almost like it was this joyful moment in the time of darkness, but it was like possibly more joyful in the time of darkness because we're in a time of darkness, and it's like a relief to be in a place with happy people, with happy music and people dancing and yada yada yada.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I kind of hate going to see live music now because I'm old and I don't want to stand for 3 hours. But I've been to a bunch of shows in the last couple of years, and while I'm there, I'm like, look at this. I'm in a room with 500 people that are all here for the same purpose, and I don't go to church, so this is the closest I'm going to get, and this feels great. And every once in a while, it's a really good show, like, the band called Death.
Yes, I've heard of them. Sounds like, uplifting.
They were a punk band that recorded an album in 1974 that disappeared, and then somebody found it, and they made a documentary about it, and anyway, the survivors toured.
Was it called A Band Called Death?
That was the name of the documentary. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So their show, incredible. Like people are so happy. There's a band called the Church of the Cosmic Skull. They're a British sort of stoner rock adjacent band, and their show was incredible. It just like felt so great to be in that room. So every once in a while there'll be a thing like that where I go to a show and there's a very special vibe in the room, and that feels that feels right,
Yeah, and we gotta grab them as tight as we can for those little moments these days. Yeah. Jeff Taylor, the last question I usually ask people is a tricky one. I'm going to warn you. What do you believe happens when we die? I guess is the word that we're looking for. What do you think is there a next thing? Where are you at? You said you're not religious, but do you have any beliefs in that realm at all?
I think my answer is pretty boring. It's kind of a stock.
No, nobody's answer is boring. Go ahead.
maybe a stock atheist answer, which is, however you felt before you were born is how you're going to feel after you die. I'm not afraid of death. I think it's just sort of you close the door and the lights go out and you're not there anymore. I'm not worried about it. I think consciousness is entirely something that are a wonderful illusion that our brains make, or a wonderful illusion that the universe makes in order to experience itself, and that's great. But it only lasts 80 to 120 years, and I don't think there's anything after, except for the other people that are born and living their lives.
Huh. All right. I mean, it's not a boring answer. I as a person who doesn't want to believe that, hate it, but I think that it's great.
It's hateable. I get it.
You're wrong, Jeff Taylor. You're wrong. You're wrong about death.
So.
Well, Jeff Taylor, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was a true pleasure. It's funny that we seem to have a nice dynamic because we have the same name and the similarities of the things that have happened in our lives. It's kind of strange. It's not entirely strange because if we're both, as I said, pretentious enough to take the F off of our name, then the art school thing I think kind of fits in with that and so forth and so on. But still, it's strange because, as I said earlier, your name is such an intimate part of who you are, and it's so strange to know that you are living your life and identifying yourself with the exact same two words that I'm identifying myself with, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. It is a weird thing, and I'm looking forward to the convention and or the band when you get.
Yeah, I've got to get that. I've got to get those together. The Jeff Taylors and the 1F Jeff convention. Those are some great ideas. I could probably maybe next year. We'll look for 2026 or 2027. Maybe we'll start that. Do you have anything you want to promote while you're on here? I
go by Urban Nature Walk or Swamp Hobbit, depending on the social media site. I'm on YouTube as Urbpan, URBPAN, which is the last sort of remnant of the urban pantheist, also Blue Sky, the same Urbpan. Right. So if you want to see toy cars smash into one another, or if you want to see me talk about mushrooms or other living things, those are the spots. It's not hard to find me.
I'll put them all in the show notes as well, just in case people didn't get that. So Jeff Taylor, it was a pleasure to meet you. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Jeff Taylor, it was a pleasure being with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. Keep in touch, sir. I'll follow you on all the things, and take care of yourself, man.
You too.
And that was Jeff Taylor. And I'm also Jeff Taylor. And that probably is plenty of Jeff Taylors for one episode. So, thank you for listening. If you've listened this far, please rate, subscribe, and review. You gotta 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 rate, subscribe, and review. Something like that. I'm working on it. I think it's going to be a hit for the Jeff Taylors. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at 1FJeffPod, and you can follow the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/1FJeffPod. And you can email the podcast. You can call the podcast. Look at the show notes. You'll see them. It's all there. Honestly, I don't know that people listen this long. Do people actually listen this long? Here's what I want you to do this week. If you're listening this long, send me an email at 1FJeffPod@gmail.com and just tell me something to prove. Well, just sending the email would be enough. So, yeah, if you've listened this far, just send me an email and you'll get a prize. Another prize. I've lost track of the other prizes because there's no entrance. I had one entrant actually for the photo contest, but the rules for the photo contest were that you send me a photo that has something to do with the podcast or your engagement with the podcast. And my nephew, who's a wonderful man, love him to death, but he just sent me a picture of his cross-country team. And I did ask him, what does this have to do with the podcast? And there was no response. So, I mean, you're on the cusp of a prize there, Owen, but you're not jumping off the old diving board. Is that a good metaphor? I'm slap happy. I didn't mention this in the intro, but I am no longer sick. It's knocking on wood. It was about 2 weeks of this cold, and it was about as sick as I've been in quite a few years. Nobody likes being sick. It's horrible. We all know this. I'm a person that leads towards, I struggle with negativity. I've always struggled with negativity. This is something I have been working on, but I'm aware of it. So awareness is the first step towards something or other. Anyway, my negativity and my anxiety really got their hooks into me during my sickness. And I started grabbing for things, like not literally, but like symbolically, right? I was trying to hold on to something, trying to hold on to things, looking for something to hold on to. And it wasn't until I spoke to a dear friend of mine who basically said in so many words, there's nothing to hang on to. There's never been anything to hang on to. There's just this moment. There's just this moment.
Very good, Jeffrey.